Hello and welcome. This is the Astrology of the Week Ahead podcast. I'm your host, Chani Nicholas, and in this episode, we are looking at the week of May 22nd. I love how this week begins. The major moment is happening on Monday, where Mars in Leo squares Jupiter in Taurus. Now, when Mars and Jupiter get together, Mars loves to win. It also loves a fight. And it loves to figure out how far it can push the envelope. And Jupiter is there as the great cosmic cheerleader and expander. So when these two are in a square, it can definitely aggravate our desire to win. But because Jupiter is in the mix, and Jupiter is so inclusive and also relaxing, there is this kind of way in which the two of them together do want to create something that is going to be good in a big, abundant way. Yes, we want to win. Yes, we are trying to pursue something that will take an incredible amount of energy, but we've got it. We've got something to work with, and we're working towards something that feels fulfilling on a spiritual, or we could even say moral level. So this is a really good week for activism. It's a really good week to be fueled by the things that we know we need to fight for and to go big in our mission to accomplish that. Also in the beginning of the week, the moon is in Cancer, which is really nourishing and nurturing. And it's going to, by Tuesday, make a conjunction with Venus. And this is a really lovely moment. This is a really gorgeous little piece of astrology in terms of fine tuning and getting into the nitty gritty of what makes a good moment to do something. And Moon and Venus things are just filled with a lot of connective energy. So again, it feels like we're spurred into action in the beginning of the week. It feels like we want to go big. This is Mars in Leo. Mars in Leo is watch me. And with Jupiter kind of gassing it up, it does feel like there's something really ambitious that we want to take on. And because Jupiter is influencing this moment, we also want to think about what would be fulfilling for us to achieve on a spiritual, philosophical kind of level. And with that Moon-Venus situation happening at the beginning of the week, it feels like we're getting assisted, especially when we focus on how to connect with others, especially when we focus on connecting to others on an emotional level. So it does feel quite galvanizing, and there's a lot of sweetness available also. And then the moon transitions into Leo midweek, and it spends Wednesday, Thursday, Friday hanging out in Leo. And this is really important because it will speed up the tempo of the week, or it will at least heat it up. And at the same time, the moon and Mars are going to make a square to the nodes. And the nodes are places where eclipses happen. So they're not physical things, but they are points in space. And when Mars comes along to square both of them to make a kind of T, then that means that there's something really important for us to pay attention to in regards to not skipping a step. And because the moon is moving with Mars in that time period, it does feel like there's a big focus here. So I really want you to pay attention to what you feel galvanized to do, what actions you feel like you really want to take in the beginning of the week. And then I want you to be really thoughtful and thorough for the rest of the week, especially as we move closer to Friday, about the ways in which you might rush past a step, or you might rush through a situation because it's boring or it's uncomfortable or you don't like it, but it's really essential in terms of getting to where you want to go. Because it does look from my point of view here that there's something here that we don't want to rush through, that we don't want to skip, and that we don't want to miss out on. And there's also something that we're like moving away from so that we can move towards what we really want. And we've got to like manage that balance, right? Like, what am I letting go of, and what am I maybe too hungry for? And instead of like going to one extreme where I'm dropping everything or the other extreme where I'm reaching for everything, how can I also find a balance between the two so that I'm slowly releasing something that I don't need to do anymore, and I'm slowly starting to take on, or I'm thoroughly or thoughtfully starting to move in a direction that feels really energized and energizing without kind of grasping onto it or letting my energy kind of get the best of me. So on Friday, Mars squares the nodes. Feels like an important moment. It's also a really important moment for our tempers, temper tantrums, what we might see out there, we might see in the mirror, but also how we're managing our anger, how we're managing our rage, how we're wanting to channel it and get something done with it. Also on Friday, something very cute happens. Venus makes a sextile to Uranus. Venus is in Cancer and Uranus is in Taurus. And this little connection between them is quite stimulating. It's quite flirty. It is about spontaneous pleasure. It is a great time to try something new, to go see new art, to go be in the realm of sweetness and of beauty unexpectedly. Or just to like take someone up on a coffee date, on a date, on a meeting. You might notice that there's a lot of kind of last minute unexpected meetings that seem like really fortuitous. Okay, the thing that I want to take note of though is on Sunday, and we're going to probably feel this Saturday into Sunday, is that the sun, this is going to be a very quick transit, but the sun is going to make a square to Saturn. And when anything makes a square to Saturn, we get notified that there's a limit and a boundary that we need to set or adhere to, respect, acknowledge. There's a stop sign. It's easy to feel like, oh man, I was going, so fast and furious in this direction, and now I'm inconvenienced with this red light. But we have to remember, like, it's there for a reason. So if you're like, I've got too much to do to go out and play in the wee hours of Sunday evening, that's okay. You'll probably be really grateful that you did the work that you needed to do Sunday night, and not left it to Monday. And it might just be a day where you're really wanting to limit the ways in which you're dispersing your energy, right? It is Gemini season. The sun's in Gemini. The sun in Gemini has a tendency to go everywhere all the time, all at once, which is super fun because you can learn and experience a million different things. But Saturn's like, hold on, just like pause for a second, gather yourself, because you don't want to spread yourself too thin over the course of this weekend, because it won't feel good if you do. Sometimes maybe it will, but this weekend, probably not. So give yourself the appropriate boundaries so that you feel contained and taken care of in the ways that you know you need to. Okay, y'all, that is the reading for the week. I hope it was helpful. I hope that there are things that we do this week that do feel like a win for all. It's always great to win, but it's so much more satisfying when it is for collective good. And this week, especially the beginning of the week, certainly does seem to be speaking to that. And, as we come to the end of the week and Mars squares the nodes, it can speak to what goes wrong when we are mainly purely focused, or living in a society that's mainly purely focused on individual winning. And I think the beginning of the week's astrology is trying to veer us away from that. Or we could look at it as that kind of signal and take note and see how we might discover ways to move towards abundance with like a fierce and competitive kind of energy, but that we're trying to win something for a reason that's bigger than just our own little agenda. Thank you all so much for leaving us reviews in the App Store and letting us know how the app is impacting your life. I wanted to leave you with this one. It's called Life-Changing Magical Learning by Dharma.Dawn. Mere words cannot express how grateful I am for the Chani app. My foray into astrology and moonology has grown exponentially in the last year due to Chani and her team, and the app makes learning about my chart so much easier to navigate. It has increased my curiosity and deepened my connection to life through nature's cycles, and has led me to view the world through a lens that makes me feel so much more connected on every level. Thank you. Sending you lots of love, many, many blessings. Bye for now.